It's just stupid. People don't want to watch a comedy of errors in a serious show, no matter how many dragons there are. What's up everyone, and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we're kicking off our weekly breakdown and reviews of House of the Dragon with the season premiere of Season 3 entitled Salt and Sea, Fire and Blood. Let's get right into the breakdown, which we all know means spoilers are ahead. We kick off the season in the Vale, where the show makes a subtle, roasting commentary on the sheep detectives. Rhaena Targaryen decides to befriend this dragon, Sheep Stealer, because its severe underbite will distract from her imperfections, making her look better in comparison. Meanwhile, new King Regent Aemond has decided to dabble in hate crimes, but luckily he gets interrupted. Elsewhere, Larys has abducted Aegon and is showing him his collection of birds while telling Aegon it puts the lotion on its burnt skin. Their wagon gets stopped by some of Rhaenyra's soldiers, and Larys is almost instantly ready to suck his way out of the situation. But then he realizes he can just snitch on Aegon instead. Back on Dragonstone, Rhaeray is contemplating Alicent's offer to hand over the city in exchange for her life and the life of some of her children. And with Aemond and Vhagar going out of town on a boys' trip, King's Landing will be open for the taking, and the end of the war will be nigh. But in King's Landing, Aemond has cancelled his trip, and Alicent finds the looks-maxing virgin sitting on the throne. Meanwhile, Daemon strolls across New York City where the Knicks celebration parade is coming to its natural conclusion, but the last of the Spurs fans, Jason Lannister, has escaped. On the edge of the forest, they think they see some Celtics fans creeping in, but it's actually the Starks. So Timberwolves fans, I guess. They deliver the missing Lannister's head and the party resumes. Elsewhere, Gwaine Hightower admires a dude's body before finding Sir Criston Cole painting little dicks on his shield, as they pass the time waiting for Aemond to show up for their boys' trip. Further elsewhere, Rhaena doesn't know how to drive and she crashes Sheep Stealer, who gets up and calls her something I can't repeat here, before flying off. At sea, Corlys Velaryon is popping the henny with his bastard boy Alan, who doesn't yet have enough hair on his peaches for the hard stuff. Alarms are raised suddenly outside, but nothing will keep Corlys from finishing this henny. Turns out, more than 50 ships from the Triarchy have appeared, led by a commander who wouldn't be allowed in women's sports, let's say. Sheep Stealer comes back to collect Rhaena's insurance information when it vomits up a sheep that Rhaena disgustingly eats, fur and all. Even further elsewhere, Ormond Hightower finally gets word that Aemond isn't going to make the boys' trip. But in King's Landing, Alicent tries to manipulate Aemond into leaving town by calling him a coward and saying she didn't know she had another daughter, and one with such pretty long hair. But Aemond takes this the completely wrong way. Probably on the Isle of Faces, Ulf has the shit scared out of him by a goat before the other dragon seeds see a goat man and Alice Rivers the witch. Baela rushes in to inform Rhaeray that there's been an ambush in the gullet, which I appreciate because the show kinda made me forget all about that. Rhaenyra gets all excited and leaves to get ready for battle, but Jacaerys orders her guard to put her in timeout, with Jace and Baela deciding to fly out themselves. Delayed by her need to have her hair done and to grab her pretty riding gloves, Rhaeray wastes enough time getting ready to end up locked in her room. The Battle of the Gullet is going well, with ships and men burning alike, as the Sea Snake leads his ship towards they-them's flagship, called the Non-Passable. Their voice cracks while they make a rousing speech to take the fight to the Sea Snake, their mortal enemy. Rhaenyra decides to take up sewing to kill the time, but she was never any good at it. Then she complains about feeling like a king trapped in a queen's body. Back with the real show everyone is here for, Jace and Baela make a fiery entrance to the battle, but they-them shoots Jace's dragon with a harpoon, dragging it toward the abyss below, before Baela swoops in at the last second to cut the tether. Meanwhile, Corlys masterfully angles his ship through a tight pass with them in pursuit. Them is struggling, so they toss the Lannisters overboard to lighten their load, allowing them to make it through. Nice job, dude. Then they peg the Sea Snake's ship, and a battle ensues on deck. In the skies above, Rhaena gets a front row seat to Sheep Stealer torching enemies and allies alike, even going after Rhaena's sister. Corlys squares up against them, checks their genitals real quick to make sure it's a fair fight, and he's about to end them when the ship gets torn in half. And now that there's a break in the action, Corlys hops in for a quick dip. Jace, who's just bad at this thanks to his mother's sheltering of him his whole life, gets harpooned again. Back with the ship, Alan wants to make his former absentee father proud, so he kills they and them, a death which the show almost seems to want us to care about. Bela can't save Jace this time, as Jace learns that water types are very dangerous against fire types. Pokemon taught us this. Jace leaves Vermax to die, not even trying to drag him up, only to surface right in the middle of some sailors doing target practice on a plank of wood, and he dies doing what he loved, being useless. And Bela watches her meal ticket sink to the bottom of the gullet. Alan rises triumphant, only to be pissed to see that his dad walked out on him again, as the rest of the battle and this episode come to an end. And with that, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this season premiere episode was a great watch or a hate watch. But I'm actually putting this one down as a debate watch. Of course it's great to bring the season back with a bang, with dragons soaring, torching ships, naval combat and boardings, and consequential deaths, as a slow-burning show is finally nearing a fever pitch of formative events. On the other hand, however, the creator's vision for this adaptation and how it deviates from the Fire and Blood book is approaching a breaking point for me. The Battle of the Gullet was entertaining. Remember, this is the battle that was pushed off from the shortened Season 2 into Season 3, and I'd say the battle was a good 35% of this episode. It was fun and cinematic, but even this big focal point of the episode, which should be undeniably enjoyable, had its share of problems. First off, it's minor, but I find the focus this show put on the commander of the Triarchy bizarre for an insignificant, kinda gender-swapped character whose only part in this story is to bring a fleet to one battle where it's nearly all lost. To try and build this character up like there's someone to go toe-to-toe with the legendary sea snake, and to try and make us care about their death is just weird. Also, and I'll expand on this in a bit when we get to the book spoilers section, a few kind of important characters are missing from the Battle of the Gullet. But we'll get to that. And lastly, Reyna and Sheepstealer flying in like a wild card and largely contributing to Jacaerys' death is kinda lame. I get that there's a running theme that dragons cannot truly be controlled, a thought the show had Viserys introduced in its first ever episode, and which was reinforced with Vhagar, Arax, and now Sheepstealer not listening to their writers. But this show seems to have a serious problem with intentionality at this point. So many important events just happen because of some dumb mistake or misunderstanding, and it's fucking stupid at this point. All of this is happening because Alicent misunderstood Viserys' dying words, hostilities kicked off because Aemond couldn't stop his dragon from killing Lucerys, Reyna having the exact same problem led to Jace's death. There's not much, if any, debate in the book on why characters are doing things or why things happen. Characters act with intention, which, even in a book like Fire and Blood, makes them more well-rounded. They're not just falling ass backward into comically consequential events like this show has them doing. And it takes away from the weight of the show's events. If Jace is going to be killed, just make it the doing of the Triarchy and the Triarchy alone. Give the bad guys credit. It just makes them seem more formidable and makes the eventual victory feel more earned. And it puts more of the focus and blame on Jace's shoulders for stubbornly flying off to war. Don't have his cousin, or whatever the fuck she is to him, just swoop in like oops and get the guy killed. It's just stupid. People don't want to watch a comedy of errors in a serious show, no matter how many dragons there are. And then we had another weird, creepy kiss, coming on the heels of last season's weird, creepy kiss, when Rhaenyra got turned on by Myzaria's story of being assaulted, and kissed her in the middle of it. But this time it's Aemond and his mom. And I get that Targaryens are gonna Targaryen, but still. This was another choice by the creators. I liked seeing Cole, who's just dead inside, although it lasted all of 20 seconds. But Cole, who has broken every vow he's ever taken, is just an empty husk of a man at this point after seeing the ravages of dragon-led warfare. And with him being the second most powerful person in the Seven Kingdoms, and being numb to just about everything, it could be interesting to see what kind of atrocities a man like that is capable of. So maybe the show will spend more than 20 fucking seconds with him next time. It was good though to see Daemon finally in his element on the battlefield, and not doing weird loopy dreamscape shit at Harrenhal or being forced to bend the knee by his wife. Hopefully those time waster storylines are in the past. But now, as promised, I read Fire and Blood before the season started, so my dick and fart jokes would have better context. And I'm not really going to go any further than the book's versions of each episode's events, but let's get into some minor book spoilers. So here's another spoiler warning just in case. Now, One of the more important things to transpire at the Battle of the Gullet in the book involved Rhaenyra's young sons with Daemon, Aegon and Viserys. The two of them were being transported on a ship that was intercepted by the Triarchy. Aegon escapes but loses his dragon, and Viserys is lost. And, for a couple different reasons, this has a fairly serious impact on the later events of the book. Now, I don't think the show is going to go deep enough into the book's story for this to be an issue, but it is a significant exclusion from the show. Rhaenyra was absolutely not locked in her room like a petulant 9-year-old. In the book, she was in too much grief to take part in the Battle of the Gullet. The show having a prince overrule the queen in regard to the Queen's Guard is just asinine. Also, you might have heard about House of the Dragon's decision to cut out a character called Nettles from the show, replacing some of her story with that of Rhaena's. It's Nettles who claims sheep stealer in the book, but unlike the show, Nettles does this by bringing the dragon sheep over a long period of time, gaining his trust. She has no known dragon's blood, so her character brought up a whole commentary on whether or not you actually needed dragon's blood to be a dragon rider. But with Rhaena just strolling up and claiming the dragon with no work, the show seems to be limiting dragon riding to those with Targaryen ancestry, which is a notable simplification for a show that's constantly trying to add complexity to other simple aspects of the book's story. The three dragon seeds, Ulf, Hugh, and Adam, were all actually present at the Battle of the Gullet, fighting for Team Black, so either the show has some storyline in store for them involving Alice Rivers, which I'm sure won't be worth the time it's given, or they didn't have the budget or time to add 3 more dragons to the battle. Or it's possible they didn't want the battle to seem so one-sided. Aemond never went so far as to name himself king in the book, nor does he kiss mommy. And lastly, Jacaerys' death, at least, is pretty damn book accurate. Other than the exact details of how his dragon goes down, everything else is as accurate as the arrow that whizzed into his neck. Anyway, there are a few other differences here and there, but those were the bigger changes. Overall, I think this first episode was enjoyable, and it's great to finally get some of this show's slow build-up paid off, but the creator's version of this story is becoming a serious irritation for me. But regardless, I'll be here to see how the rest of the season goes. Now, what did you think about this episode? Are you also getting tired of a whole bunch of whoopsies being the main driver behind this show's story? Let us know in the comments. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay up to date on House of the Dragon. Thank you for throwing back the henny with me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.